They chewed like judges at a slow tribunal. Small, clipped bites. Mouths that moved as if to emphasize verdicts. Silverware pinged against plates with the kind of precision practiced by people who like to feel their superiority in the clink. The dining room smelled of roast and polite malice. Chandeliers diffused light over faces that had once kissed my forehead and now catalogued my failures like fine cheeses. They told my story between courses, how I'd blown opportunities, how I'd fallen short where family mattered. Each anecdote seasoned with that smug, cheerful cruelty that makes gossip taste like a right. I smiled at first because anger is noisy and they would have loved the spectacle. Instead I sat very still, letting their words fill the room, and then dilute into the background like cheap perfume. They had forgotten something crucial. Evidence, unlike rumor, can sit quietly in a pocket and wait for its moment. The invitation to dinner had been non-committal, the kind of text that sounded like obligation dressed as courtesy. My name was on the list because someone thought it polite to pretend the exile never happened. They wanted a performance of family, a photo they could tag and share, an image to prove that inconvenient rifts had sealed themselves in tasteful stitches. They did not expect me to come prepared. They expected me to be small, to nod, to let the knives be the only sharp things on the table. They had misjudged me. Between their stories and their laughter, I had placed a thin, unassuming folder under my chair. It was not bulky or showy. It held only pages, receipts, messages, a ledger of small betrayals and larger absences, meticulous, unadorned, impossible to fold into rumor. Each sheet was a small, glinting fact. The company expense report showing payments rerouted through a shell entity. A contract with the landscaper that bore the signature of the cousin who'd claimed the work as a family favor. A recorded conversation in which my name was used to justify actions that had cut me out of my home. They had thought that erasing me from the photos would erase the transactions I'd overseen, or the accounts I'd balanced. They had been careless. Dinner progressed the way a storm approaches, gradual, with small signs overlooked until the sky had already darkened. The first course arrived, applause for the chef, a toast to moving forward. I raised my glass and said something genteel about family and resilience. Heads nodded, forks paused, and then conversation resumed as if mine had been a seasoning. One aunt told a story about a party where I'd been the butt of the joke. Another cousin mocked my ambitions with practice charity. Laughter rang out like a bell. At the moment their attention was tilted outward, I reached down and retrieved the folder. My hands were steady. I placed the first sheet, an email thread, on the table between the cheese and the bread. It was small, a single header line visible to anyone leaning in. Invoices, account numbers, and most important, dates and signatures that corresponded to the nights they'd all celebrated without me. A murmur rippled. Someone asked what it was, politely, because manners in that room were a way of keeping venom digestible. I looked up and said, with the quiet of someone about to read a recipe, "Just some receipts I thought you might want to see." I spread the pages across the dining table like a tablecloth being lifted to reveal a different meal. There were photographs of service contracts they had claimed were fulfilled by volunteers. There were bank transfers that matched the dates of family events where I had been labeled difficult and unavailable. Most damning were the emails between two cousins planning how to reassign estate assets while treating me as a footnote. Phrases like, "easier without him," and "we'll handle it quietly." The room, which had been a boiler of easy judgments, cooled with the whisper of paper sliding. People leaned forward, not with the casual curiosity of gossip but with the focused, hungry attention of those who suddenly understood they'd been actors in a play whose script had been written by others.